Welcome to Lawyers Who Learn, where we explore how attorneys' engagement and lifelong learning fuels their growth. Join us to uncover these journeys and gain insights for your legal career.
Virginia, welcome to Lawyers Who Learn. I'm really excited to dive into your story. Somebody who started as an engineer and has been a patent attorney for 36 years and now runs a startup. I know there's so much I can learn and we can learn from your experiences. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
You're coming straight from London. I'm in New York, so we have a 6-hour difference in terms of morning for me, towards the end for you. So we'll both bring it there. I have to appreciate the boat that I see in your background, that model boat. Did you build that?
I did not. Full confession here. I'm sitting in my adult son's office because I'm going to pick up my grandson from nursery later on today. You wanted to talk about personal stuff. That's why I'm here with a boat behind me.
I'm sure it doesn't get better than that. So
does not.
So your career, so I'll just give a 30-second overview and let me know if I'm missing anything, but just way you don't have to like kind of go through each step is you started as an engineer and in engineering science. And then for the past 36 years, you were at Page, White and Farrer, pronouncing that correct? And you were focusing on patent. And you also, the past 12 years, did AI you focus on AI. So why don't you tell me that? Because what did you focus on specifically with AI? And then you also focus on something I read with training AI quantum patent stuff. So it's above my pay grade to understand everything that you've done. So that's why I wanted to dive deep. I haven't interviewed too many patent attorneys so far. So let's start with that journey right there.
Okay, super. Thank you. So in fact, I finished my degree in engineering science and went straight into the world of patents with a firm called Hazeltine Lake & Co., who were based in Bristol. But then after a short number of years, I moved from there to Page, White and Farrer, where I spent the rest of my career working as a patent attorney. For the last 12 years, I have been specializing in the intersection between AI and intellectual property, or AI and patents. And I built up an AI specialist team by training computer scientists and some theoretical physicists to know how to handle patents in very, very sharp edge technologies, AI being the primary one, but also quantum, which is where you get that quantum from.
Now, can you explain for this example what quantum means here?
So, well, very, very, very good questions. So these are to file patent applications in the world of quantum research. So that could be anything from the substrates that are being used to make quantum computers, or the algorithms and theories around why and how quantum computers might be built for the future.
But just to dive a little bit deeper, because from what I understand, quantum is about being able to do, I don't know, two things at the exact same time. I don't really understand it. I don't think most people do. I don't know if you can kind of bring it down to a layman.
There are many people in my team better placed to answer that question than I am. But essentially, with a quantum, what's called a qubit, a piece of quantum, how do I put it, state, if you want to put it like that, it can do multiple things at the same time. It can be in a number of different states at the same time. So it basically just allows you to dramatically multiply out the power of computing. And I hold my hands right up. I'm not a specialist in quantum. Yeah.
No, I think that, and so from what I understand, again, you're not a specialist, so we can move on if you don't know the answers. But from what I understand, it's not really in the mainstream yet. Like when I say mainstream, not B2C, but it's not really being used by corporations or Google, for example, like they're testing, it's not really being used on a widespread basis just yet, correct? Or is it?
That's correct. That's correct. We are a long way off widespread
Yeah.
use of quantum technology. Yes.
But part of it's theory, but part of it's actually they've been able to replicate it. Is that correct?
Yes. So part of it's theory, but actually there are quantum computers which do actually compute. There are some companies which actually have some compute technology in operation. It's very small. Well, small scale is the wrong word, but it physically small scale, and there are challenges to solve before you can roll that out across the world.
What are the? Sorry, I keep asking about quantum, but what are the implications?
Okay.
What are the implications if it can go mainstream and like, these patents come to fruition?
It's a next gen technology in the way that we have just not seen. Even looking at AI and the way AI is sweeping across the world and causing dramatic technological and social changes, quantum is the net, like a times 100 or times 10,000 impact on that, because every computation that you do is speeded up, like 10,000 or 100,000 times. So we're only in the foothills of imagining what a quantum compute world might look like.
Like, again, for I think almost the entire world, nobody really understands or hears. Like the best that I got is like there's a show when I was younger called Quantum Leap, and somebody was able to jump to many different universes, right? Because they're multiverses. So, okay, you can do everything at the same time or much faster, and you also have AI that can do things at the same time. We're in, what you had read to me or you wrote to me ahead of time. We're in sci-fi world, Isaac Asimov, iRobot, all the things that you sort of see and read about is sort of comes to fruition with quantum computing. Does that sound fair?
Well, I think even if you're looking at Asimov iRobot, even with AI, we're
getting there.
We're pretty much not. We're about like 2/3 of the way through the iRobot story, right? But
If I recall, it doesn't end well, right?
It doesn't. It doesn't end well. It doesn't end well for humanity.
Yeah.
It ends better for the robot. So we have to bear that in mind.
Okay, so taking a step back, you said you were one of the things that you were working on was for 12 years or 8 years is helping figure out where AI intersects with patents.
Yes.
Can you explain? Can you parse that out a little bit? Is there a lot of patents that are now including their AI technology in it, like ChatGPT, like OpenAI? Is that a patent? Like all these, is Gemini, is Claude, are these patents that they filed, or is it something else?
No. So that's right. But just going back into the foothills of those 12 years, and it's hard to record just how fast AI has come across in the world and developed in the world. I mean, I think we're only probably 2 or 3 years, and maybe only 2 years into the ChatGPT foundation models being ubiquitous. But 12 years ago, AI was a burgeoning new technology for which patent applications could be filed and needed to be filed. People needed to understand how to protect this new technology. And there was not a huge amount of attention, expertise being applied to that 12 years ago. Now it's a massive part of the market, and there are tens of thousands of patent applications which are filed, to your point, to protect the AI technology, which is powering all of these things, and in terms of the software, but also in terms of the hardware, how these data centers run, how they're managed, how you make sure that the computers don't all blow up with the stream. So hardware and software innovation is what I look at.
Maybe this is a basic question, but Is there a risk when you have a great AI software technology or a special way you do your data center and you file a patent and there's other countries like China as an example that don't care about patent laws? Doesn't the patent sort of give them the blueprint on how to just copy it in their country? Is there that risk of actually giving away your secret sauce to those who don't care?
That is the $1,000,000 question, and that's one of the reasons that I started to focus on this 12, 13 years ago and that's why I said the intersection of AI and intellectual property generally, because the risk of filing a patent application is exactly what you say. It gets published 18 months after you file it. So you have this window of 18 months where you still have your secret source hidden. But then at 18 months, it gives competitors the blueprint. On the flip side, if you don't file a patent application, you have to be 100% confident that you can keep that blueprint behind closed doors. And that's harder than it looks. In particular, at the time, a lot of AI still is being generated by research organizations at universities. And they like to publish their material anyway, publish or die, right, in academia.
Yeah.
I mean, so the material, very often, the secret source is going to be published either through an academic paper or when the tool gets used or when somebody accesses the software for some reason. So one of the things I built up was like an IP risk framework for assessing, should I file a patent application or should I keep it secret, basically.
Fascinating. I mean, you've worked with Skype, Microsoft, which is, I think owns Skype now, Nokia, King. You worked with all these large companies. And was this the type of thing that you would help them with? Okay.
Yes.
And how often do they decide, you know what, I don't want my competitors to see this. I'm not sure I want to go this route, and they don't file?
Oh, percentage basis.
From your
Very
experience.
Yeah, in my experience, I would say as the years rolled by, there was more of an understanding that patent protection would be an appropriate protection. So I think whatever the percentage was, let's say for sake of argument, it was 70% don't file a patent, 30% file a patent. When I started, now it would have flipped. Because there's a greater understanding of the risks of not having patent protection.
And then, of course, there's companies like Apple, who is been sued. They're in a large lawsuit. It's been going on for years, billions and billions of dollars with their Apple Watch, where the way it reads your health and other things from the dot. There's a company that owned that patent, and I think they've gotten tons of money, and it's still going on. And to some degree, there's a business, from what I understand, a business case of like Apple is okay paying the billions of dollars in costs in lawsuits or other companies as part of the business strategy, because of potentially they'll win that suit, potentially it helps them get competitive. Is that something familiar that you've heard as well? Like, it's just companies just sort of violate patents as a way for knowing, sue me, good luck. I'm Apple. Good luck in winning. And if you do win, it's still worth the effort that we did because we built up market share.
I would put different nuance on it. So I'm not familiar with that particular
Okay.
case. I'm certainly familiar with the strengths and weaknesses of the arguments. In my experience, the big, particularly the big companies, are very careful with their reputation. And if somebody comes along with a patent, which is a slam dunk case, they would generally, in my experience, fulfill their obligations to the patentee, either attempt to buy it or give a fair license or something. But where there is an argument, a valid argument to be taken, then they would take that argument, because I would say that they regard intellectual property with responsibility, but not necessarily with undue deference.
And that's the challenge with any copyright infringement or patent. you still have to sue, and suing is a very expensive proposition, especially
Yeah.
depending on who you're suing. So there is a whole area, at least I haven't paid attention in a while, but at least back in the days, of patent trolls who
Mhm.
buy all these patents with the goal to search all these companies who may be unknowingly violating their patent and suing that. Is that and suing them? Is that still a big thing that is happening in software or other areas?
It's still happening. I don't think it's quite at the extent that it was back in the mid-90s, early 2000s when they were very prevalent. Their business model is a bit different. They don't really pay so much attention to whether there's an actual violation of the patent. They have big portfolios, and so they rely on the fact that the person that they're asserting the patents against may not have deep enough pockets to fight a full litigation. So they set their proposed license fee, let's call it, at a level which is not crippling for the company.
Got
They
it.
can
Got it.
afford to pay it. And then as more and more companies pay it, they then get this more, that they got more cash in their pockets, the trolls' pockets, to get moved forward. But I think what has happened is people did get more willing to defend if they could, particularly bigger companies got more willing to defend their positions. And there is still what I would regard, it's a slightly pejorative term, you do hear it, there is still patent trolling, but I think there is also more respectable licensing activity where there is a genuine infringement.
Got it. I'm going to take a pause from this line of questioning and take a step back because I'm sure in interviews you've had in the past and conversations you have with people, some form of this conversation you've had dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of times about the world of patents. So when you think about your learning and growth journey, is there a topic that you wish people would ask you about, or you would talk about more about your, who you are and what you've accomplished and overcome to be where you are today that would be, you know, of value and more interesting to talk about, or just something that you want to talk about more that you don't get to? Does that spike anything in your mind that, in a route to kind of get down?
It's kind of an obvious thing, but it's very real, and it's something that I've spoken about and had a lot of conversation about, but I still think it's important. When I studied engineering, I was one of 8 girls in a faculty of 120. When I came into the profession, I was the only professional female in the entire firm. I was the first, second female partner in the profession in London. I'm not saying these as aggrandizements. I'm saying it in answer to your question, like the journey I've had as a woman in a male-dominated profession has required me to step up to the plate on numerous occasions. And what I do find interesting is how that world has turned and how the ratios have turned. But one thing that hasn't, in terms of the number of women in law and the number of women in the patent profession, but one thing that hasn't changed is the number of female inventors. So the proportion of female inventors with their names on patents is still very small. I think it might be, somebody very excitedly said it had gone up in the past 3 years. I think it had gone up from 3.5% to 8% or something like that. So that's an interesting topic.
I love that topic, and especially like you were saying, getting a degree in engineering science. How many? You said 8-girl faculty. How many women were in engineering science at the time with you when you got your diploma?
Yeah. So in my year, there were
That was the 8?
women.
That was 8?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
And
There's a lot of numbers
120.
there. So okay. So
Yeah.
there was 8. So take me through your mindset of actually deciding that's the route how did you know that was the route you wanted to take when it was not really a welcoming environment, because there were so few women in it?
The reason I studied engineering was because I couldn't decide between physics and maths. And someone came to the school and happened to, again, a lot of life often pivots from moments in your teens when you're subject to people coming into the room, aren't they? Yeah, people telling you things.
Totally.
And this was a woman who came into the room and said, it was an all-girls school, said if you can't decide between physics and maths, you could try studying engineering. And she did acknowledge that that would be unusual for a woman, but not impossible. And that was it for me. I couldn't decide between physics and maths, and so I studied engineering. She also did throw in the tip that it would be much easier to get into one of the top universities if you were studying engineering rather than studying maths or physics or indeed English or languages. So I also had that in my mind as well.
So you studied engineering even, I don't know, in the UK, it's not called high school, but you're saying even before you went to secondary school, when you were a teenager, is it called high school when you were younger?
No, I probably have to decode. So I was 17 when that person came into the room. So I was already through my, what we would call our secondary school education.
Okay.
I was making decisions about what I think you would call college or university. Yeah.
Right.
Where I would go at age 18.
Got it. So, but when you applied, you said, I want to study engineering at
Yeah.
those schools. What, out of curiosity, were your parents like, you got this? We're like, whoa, feels a little bit outside our comfort zone.
My I'll come to my parents in a moment because I was very lucky with my parents, but my headmistress at the school called me and my parents into the office to say this was a huge mistake.
Wow.
And my parents should persuade me that I should study medicine and not engineering. Engineering was a waste of my time and no good would come of it. And that was very good, actually, because we came out of the room and my mother basically said, well, I don't know who she thinks she is telling us how to run you. You do what you want. You do what you want to do.
I swear to God, I literally just got chills when you said that, because there's so many, well, it's just such a pivotal moment for so many people that they go through where somebody of high credibility and importance, the headmistress of your school tells you it's a bad decision. And you said, moments ago, the person who came in, it's the people who come into your room and say, okay, do engineering, not math. And here's somebody else coming into the room and saying, don't do it. And so you already had the fortitude and the vision. That's where you wanted to go. So I love that. And it's just a reminder, the path to where you get, there are people who are designed for better or not to be blockers. And you got through that. So what were those years like in school? Was it what you expected? Was it better than you expected? Was it more challenging than you expected? Was there moments where you're like, oh man, I wish I listened to my mistress about that?
So nobody has ever asked me that question before, but I never thought I wish I was studying medicine. I did often think this subject is too hard for me. I found the work, because I'd pretty much, let's be frank, kind of sailed through my school education. And this was the first time I'd hit academic buffers that I could climb over. I struggled and had to work extremely hard. So I'd underestimated how hard I would have to work. I wasn't remotely fazed, by the way, by the number of boys around, the number of male students. I had brothers. I'd been raised in the north of England, which is a pretty robust environment to be raised in. You say what you think, and you do what you say.
Yeah.
And so that aspect didn't really trouble me until I came up to decide towards the end of my university years what I was going to then do with my engineering science degree. So
I feel like I'm watching a movie now. Okay, let's go.
Because then the challenge gets real, right? Because you've done a subject that girls don't study. And all the options that you're faced with are options for male students to go into, like oil companies or big manufacturing companies and things that things that I didn't want to do. I was lucky. Again, I was lucky. I had a careers advisor who at the university who told me about the career of patent agents. And when I explained to him that I'd like to do engineering, but I didn't want to do anything physical, and by the way, I also liked English and languages, I just laid this out in front of him thinking, well, you're an old guy, you're supposed to solve this problem. And he actually did. He told me about the career of being a patent attorney. And I have a lot to be grateful for him being in that room at that time.
That is amazing. So far, we're maybe 1/3 through the movie, and there's 2 key people who gave you seminal advice that helped direct you to where you are based on their experiences, and 1 person who tried to prevent that. Okay, so you had this conversation, you're like, oh, I like that. It's not physical, it's more learning. I get to use the things that I love to do, and then I can actually use my mind in engineering to do things that are potentially good for society and helpful, and not necessarily this is just where I get a job. So is it as simple as you apply to a bunch of law schools, you get into one, and you go for it, or is there any other headmistresses in the way who are like, no, don't do that, and you have to get through it?
In the UK and Europe, you don't apply to law school to become a patent attorney. You go straight in and you train under patent attorneys. And then you get a qualification which is specifically patent attorney. So I'm not a lawyer. So I probably shouldn't even be near your podcast.
No, we have many non-lawyers who are involved.
No,
this is fascinating. So keep going.
Yeah. So what I did was I got a list from somebody told me, or I found out that there was an institute of patent agents, and they sent me a list of all the patent agents in the UK, and I wrote to them all, which was in those days all manual, like handwriting, and sent my letters. It then occurred to me by the responses that I was up against it because I was a woman. And we didn't know about patriarchy and things in those days. I mean, it wasn't like that, but women were not in these professions, or any professions actually then. And this is back in the early 80s, by the way, so it's a long time ago. But one of them did reply and said I could come for an interview, and they gave me the job, which I took because that was my only interview and only job. It turned out to be a good firm, and I'd been there this is just amusing, I'd been there about a week, where one of the partners of the firm confided to me that the only reason they'd taken me on was they were desperate to hire someone and no men had applied.
Wow.
So I got through like a loophole in the wall to get in.
And so just to make sure I understand, so in the UK, in order to be, is your title patent attorney?
Yes. Patent attorney.
In order to be a patent attorney, you don't need to go to law school.
No.
See, to explain one more time, just so I can make sure I understand. How do you become?
So you get hired by a firm of patent attorneys. They train you, and you study at night in the aspects of the law, all the aspects of law for intellectual property. So trademarks, copyright, patents. And then there's exams that you sit over the course of 3 to 5 years, which examine you on that aspect of the law. So you become just a specialist knowledge of that one aspect of multiple aspects of the law, but
I mean,
property. Yeah.
That is unbelievable, and such a more valued way of becoming a patent attorney than sitting in classes where it's theoretical and you're not actually doing it, because you're still learning and studying and taking the exams. And this is all self-study. There's no teacher with all these exams that you're taking, correct? There's no group that you're working with. It's all on your own. In the
1980s, it was exactly like that. You just were given the books, you were given some old exam papers, and you were just told to work it out. Nowadays, it's very much more structured. there are courses you can go on now. There are, like week-long courses, or they run through a year, like 7 weeks a year or something. There is much more structured training for young patent attorneys now than there was then.
But it's still the same concept where it's not going to a traditional school, sitting in classes for another 3 years. Wow.
Yeah.
As an aside, could you imagine if that's how law school was? Because the US is much different than other countries. I don't know. I know Canada has 2 years in school and 1 year where you work at a firm, and learn as an apprentice, for the year. What is a traditional law school in UK?
It's 3 years at university, and then I think it's 1 year doing the LLB, the legal qualification.
So it's only 1 year for that.
But after you've done yours, I think it's 3 or 4 years at university doing law. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, but just so I understand, you graduate secondary school, which in the US is high school, and then you go to university. Now, at that stage, like in the US, just to be sure we're on the same page, you go to a college or university, you do that for 4 years. There's nothing to, and then we're learning all different topics. If you want to be a lawyer, then you apply to law school, and you then have to go to law school for another 3 years before you take the
It's
bar.
not like that yet.
So what is it? So you're saying when you go to university, you're making a decision right after secondary school that's where that's when you make the decision for you're going to do specialist in law in university. So when you leave that, then you only do 1 more year after that?
Yes. And then you do 2 years in a training contract with a law firm.
Yeah.
But with the important nuance that nowadays, or actually for the last several years, you can take your let's call it your first degree, your first college degree, could be in any other subject, not law. It could be science, it could be economics, it could be anything, English. And then there is an opportunity to do what's called a year's law conversion course, where you effectively learn law in 1 year, and then you do your NLB or year's NLB qualification. And a lot of people take that route now.
And I think if you want in the US, you want to be a patent attorney. And maybe you know better than me. I think it's another 2 years of school or maybe a year to get your LLM or whatever it is, the specialization. Do you know what it is in the US by any chance?
I don't, but I think you're right. I think it's another year at least on top of law school where you see the exams, yeah.
And I assume this is not the first time you heard in the US, it's 4 years of college, then 3 years of law school, just to be in But just out of curiosity, have you put some thought into this or talked to any colleagues in the UK, what your thoughts are about that approach, about how much schooling is needed to graduate and then, actually practice? Is there any?
You mean as a lawyer?
So as a lawyer, yeah, that it's 4 years of college and 3 years of law school.
I actually haven't, but ever really given it much thought. But now that I'm asked to give it thought, I would say that that's got to be impacting women more than men because of the number of child breeding years. It takes out of the equation.
And it's interesting. It's a great point. It also, to be honest, affects everyone because law school is very expensive in the US and 3 more years of schooling that really doesn't prepare you for the practice of law because it's really theoretical and going over, cases and not the practical of here's the business and substance of that you need to practice, sort of like that. So anyways, that's something that these are conversations that are happening now in the US, especially how fast, doesn't mean things are changing, but things are they're going to change because the Trump administration has changed the way in the next couple of years how schools are able to give student loans that are backed by the government. And that's what sort of funds this whole thing. you get these loans from the government that you're able to use at school, but if you can't get them, then there's a problem. Anyways, we'll move on from that conversation. Let's talk about where you are today. So you were at a firm for 36 years, and now you have become a startup entrepreneur with AttainIP. Take us, maybe share a little bit of what it is, but like, I'm interested in that growth journey of how you decided to make this move at this stage in your career.
So AttainIP is a AI powered platform which acts like a patent attorney. So it's designed to support all patent attorney tasks based on AI. That's essentially what we do. So I had got
Is it just out of curiosity, is the target, are you supporting the patent attorneys, or are you going directly to the client?
Either or. So either or. So it will support patent attorneys, but it will also do the jobs that in-house IP practitioners have to do. Either they might be patent attorneys in-house, or they might be collecting inventions in-house. They might be doing other aspects of the patent pipeline in-house. So we also address that.
Dare I ask if you filed a patent for it?
You can, and we have. We have several patent applications.
Did you use the software itself to help file the patent?
We did.
You did. Fantastic. Okay. So you built, so take me through how you ended up here.
So I'm going to go, yes. So I got to the, pretty much the end of, very satisfying, great career, quite honestly. I'd spent the last 12 years looking at AI, which turned out to be the future. 12 years ago, I didn't know it was going to be the future, but it turned out I was now in the future. So I'd had a great time. And got to be senior partner of my firm, and then just stepped away. Normal course of, I was stepping away into a part-time consultancy, and I was looking to do other things with my life. And I had a few irons in the fire. And then a younger colleague who I'd recruited 15 years ago was like my right-hand man in building up this team of specialist patent attorneys I spoke to you about. Tom was pivotal in that. Last December, he showed me a video on WhatsApp. He got me on a video call on WhatsApp and said, "You won't believe what I can do with these new reasoning models that came out in December 24. And it was unbelievable. He could code with them. He could start building software that could do the sorts of things that we were doing as patent attorneys. It was quite incredible. And so just kept touch with him. And then in February, he said, "I think this really is something that would be really exciting. I think we could deliver this to the world, this, for patent attorneys. Do you want to do that?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, let's do that." And so in May, we set up the company, and I found myself the founder of a startup tech company, having had no agenda to do that. I mean, I wasn't thinking this is what I'll do in my life. It literally arrived like that, and that's what I'm doing.
Had you already left the law firm at that time, or was this?
I was in my part-time consultancy, just kind of.
Okay, so it wasn't like you were working full time, and then you made a big decision. Okay, I'm leaving my job that I thought was going to be another 15 years to do this. You had already sort of wound down. And was there, just out of curiosity in career transitions, was there something in your mindset was like, okay, I'm ready to not do this full time anymore. It's been enough time. I want to focus on picking up my grandchildren at nursery. Was there something? Is there an interesting sort of career transition story there?
Not very interesting. In the sense that the firm was meeting a lot of challenges, and there was a lot of transition going on in the business. And so we just set up an ability for the older partners to step away if they wanted to.
Got it.
Slowly, and give room for the newer partners coming in. Very, very boring story about the transition.
And the question I have, about the challenges that you mentioned and the challenges for firms as a whole, is there, because you're building a software right now that potentially will create more challenges for firms because it simplifies. Well, tell me, do you think that is that the case? Like, what is, that is the fear of attorneys, that much of what they do and much of what they bill for will be replaced by software and AI. Tell me your thoughts there and how AttainIP fits into that.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting because in December 24, when I started paying attention to this, serious attention to this, because of the work Tom was doing, there was a very big fear factor across law, and certainly patent attorneys, and a huge amount of resistance, I think. By summer 25, certainly in the US, which is always leading the charge, right? The US is always more commercially minded, I think, than most other countries, possibly with the exception of China. By September 25, the mood in the room had changed completely. And basically, US IP firms are all saying, we need to have some AI. We need to, this is coming. This is coming. We need to understand it. We need to use it. Firms that don't are just going to be left behind. And certainly, and now in December 25, the mood is very much, you need to pick the right thing. And there's a lot of laggards, right? Because we're in a very, very, well, you'll know what law is like. I can promise you patent attorneys are at the conservative end of lawyers.
Yeah. When you said pick the right thing, what does that mean?
Pick the right tool. It's not about whether we're going to use AI or not. It's what are we going to use AI for and how are we going to use it?
So
that's the mood music at the moment.
And you are positioning AttainIP to be the right tool to, and what is it, what makes it magical? What makes it unique? What's its USP?
There's a lot of tools actually, and more have come out as the years gone on, which are in the same space, doing things like preparing and filing patent applications and looking at the examination process of patents. And none of them explain how they're thinking. So you put some documents in, they provide you with documents that come out, you might have some interaction with the interface, and then you get an output. But at no stage do you know what the AI was actually, how it was reasoning or what its thought processes were. So it leaves you with outputs which are very hard to verify.
Right.
They're not all bad. I wouldn't in fact, some of them are very good, but you have to take them on trust or start the work again until you're happy that the output matches what you would expect, right? The difference that we have is we give you a verification platform. So you can verify how the AI thought through the tasks, what its reasoning was, and you can delve into each piece of reasoning to query it if you have any queries. That's our magic.
Does it actually, so you want to file a patent and you haven't started yet? Do you go to the software and actually you can build the application directly through the software?
Yes, you can do that. You can take the material that you've got from the inventor, upload that, and then go through a structured process where the AI sort of gives you the hints and tips to build up to get that patent application filed.
How much time do you think this would save a patent attorney in the filing process?
So at the moment, we're above 50, we'd say above 50% for patent filing.
Saving 50%.
Yeah, saving 50%.
What does that mean? How much time is that generally?
Oh, so you might bring a job that might take 25 hours down to maybe 10.
Wow.
Something. 10 or 12
wow.
hours. So these are big jobs. These are big tasks.
And as a patent attorney, is it usually a flat fee model or an hourly model?
It varies, but there's been an increasing pressure over the last decade from the big companies to get all of their service providers onto flat fees.
Well, certainly this helps build the case to do that.
Yeah.
because if you know you can bring the timing down, you can do a flat fee and at a low, maybe not at the 10-hour rate, but maybe somewhere in between what 10 to 25 hours would be. So you don't have to like justify. Because one of the things that I know are being asked by clients now is I want you in the bill to show us where you use AI and where you're not using AI, because there's this kind of tension right now where firms are using big law is using AI to help speed things up, but the bills are the same and they're continuing to increase. Okay, so that's interesting. Now, if I am an inventor, but I'm not, maybe I'm an engineer, but or maybe I'm not, maybe I'm just the entrepreneur. Is it, I assume it's not at this phase where somebody who doesn't have a uh, a degree or experience in this could actually file a patent without getting some sort of expert to help them, correct?
It's not yet, but I don't think that's so far away if you're just talking about putting some patent application into the patent office as a kind of a stopgap.
Yeah. Okay.
So at the moment, there's a bit of a situation that occurs where an entrepreneur can't file a patent application because of the costs, and so he takes the view, I won't file anything. This would allow him to file something, maybe imperfect and rough around the edges, but something, and that something could be better than nothing in a great many cases.
And once you file an application that's rough around the edges, are you able to later on update it and improve it, or once you file, it's stuck in what it is?
With lots of qualifications that I'm not going to go into, but basically you have a year to tidy things.
Got it. But your point is, like, even if you don't tidy it up in that year, there's an argument it's still better to have a patent application that's rough around the edges versus none at all. Because
I think there are many circumstances where that can be the case. Yeah.
And then how long is the approval process usually? I mean, of course, it's different in the UK versus the US, but is it a 2-year sort of approval?
Between 3 and 5 years for most jurisdictions, actually. Yeah.
So that's a risky time, right? Like, that's where you say we're patent pending, but
pending,
which helps you, I guess, raise money, but it might be. Do you find that a lot of software companies these days get denied more than they don't? Like, is there some research or data on that?
Oh, you mean that getting patents through?
Yeah, because, people, there's so many software companies in there, legal tech, and it's really important if you're raising money to say you have patent pending technology, but maybe sometimes they're not really qualified to do that. Because I didn't know if it was like a business strategy. You have 3 to 5 years to say you're patent pending, even if it gets denied, it can help you in, for example, raising money.
Oh, it can. And the overwhelming majority of patent applications that get filed do actually get to the end of the process and get granted, maybe about 90% or more.
So there's not, from your experience, there's not a lot of frivolous patents being built. And maybe because at this stage, right, it's very expensive and time consuming to do it.
Change.
If you build software that makes it easier. Out of curiosity, what is the language model, the LLM that's powering your software?
Ours is predominantly the O3 reasoning model, but the way the software has been built, it can.
From ChatGPT.
Yeah.
OpenAI.
Yeah. OpenAI. It's OpenAI. It's not a proprietary model.
So what were you saying? The way it's been built, I interrupted.
Yeah, sorry. The way it's been built, it can also, for some tasks, it can use different versions of the LLMs. They're all foundation models. Yeah.
Got it. And what stage in the business are you at? Are you planning on raising money? Do you have a lot of customers? Are you trying to get it going? Like,
we're really early stage. We're really early stage. So we've raised an angel round of funding, and now we're in the business of demoing to potential customers, trying to raise our next round, looking at the challenges of competition. It's perfect startup territory.
Well, how big? When you're having these conversations with angels or in the next round, how big is the opportunity that you see for the business?
We think there's a $5 billion marketplace, and we think if the world turned the right way, we should be able to get a really big portion of that, because patent attorneys tend to follow other patent attorney firms.
And is there
So
any competition that exists that already has a really large market share of what the type of product we're talking about?
there's competition, which is doing a good job of getting firms to evaluate them. They're ahead of us. They're maybe about 18 months ahead. But at the moment, we're not seeing very high levels of adoption of competitors
Yeah.
yet. That
Got it.
might cause us to have a rethink down
Got
the
it.
line, but we're not seeing it yet.
Awesome. Well, in the last few minutes, let's go back to your personal. What I love about these interviews and this interview today. I feel like I really know who you are. Maybe better than some people you've known for a long time, because I've kind of, to some degree, and anyone who's listened to this has gone through your journey and your growth and where you are today and how you are. One of the questions I asked you in a pre-interview was like, what are some of the hobbies that you have? And I love your answer, because you're like, I don't know. I have 4 siblings, and I had to ask them, what they said, and like that in itself. But do you remember sort of what what are some things that you do outside of this that help you?
Yeah, because I think you asked for what was like a weird thing or something about them.
Yeah.
I have to ask my siblings. I can't even remember the answers. But I do.
Do you remember the answer now?
Sorry?
Do you remember what they said?
I don't even remember.
You said you have a skipper certificate.
I have a skipper certificate.
Is that for sailing?
For sailing, yeah, sailing yachts. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was quite cool.
Well, that's very cool. Well, I appreciate that. Is there any other, maybe not so weird, hobbies that you do to keep, that give you energy?
I'm not going to answer that question directly, not because I don't have a ton of hobbies, but I can't leave this podcast without really telling you like the most important thing in my entire life that I've not mentioned yet, except peripherally, is my
Let's do it.
So I have raised 3 children along the way, and one of them was a baby when I was doing all that studying for exams in the early 80s. And I feel that's a point worth mentioning by way of encouragement to other women.
Well, no, I appreciate that, because one of the things you did answer is, because I asked you what was one lesson or mindset shift that changed how you work or live, and you quoted Lizzo.
Get out of your own way. Yeah.
And tell me how that phrase relates to your life.
You are prone, if you're academically minded and intellectual, you're very prone to coming up with an idea and then instantly putting up all the barriers to implementing that idea. It's a very, very common factor. And I think lawyers are very, very, very good at stopping themselves from doing things. And I heard that comment, I read that comment by Lizzo maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a bit more. And I suddenly thought, just don't do that. Just literally, just don't wait for somebody else to put it their hand and block you. And it really did such a big mind shift. Just, okay, I'm going to carry on till somebody blocks me. And in life, David, you'll know this because you've been very successful. People often just don't block you, right? They just let you carry.
Well, and to your point, even if they do block you, doesn't mean you should listen to them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, from my experience, many times the people who block you are the ones that love you the most, because they don't want to see you get hurt. So they block you out of fear of you're going to make the wrong decision and it's going to be impactful, and they don't have experience in their life. They've blocked themselves, right? So they've blocked themselves, so they're blocking you, and so that's just something to worry about. It's not always those who don't want you to succeed. It's sometimes those who want you to succeed the most who are actually blocking you from taking that like scary decision or
that. Yeah.
And then I guess as a final question, one of the things I'd asked you ahead of time was some book recommendations, and 2 that you had mentioned, which I would love to dive deeper into. One was called The Silence of Girls, and the other one was called The Women of Troy. And I think they're both historical fiction. Can you tell us a little bit about both of those?
Yeah, so they go together. I think the Silence of Girls is first, and then the sequel is The Women of Troy, and it tells the story of Achilles, which itself is fiction, but the story of Achilles, but giving all the women in the story the voices to tell the story. So they're observing the actions of their men and trying to make sense of it. It's very funny in places, trying to accommodate the way they're treated, which is very tragic. And I just feel it's a really well done exposition of the way the prism through which the genders view the world, actually.
Yeah.
For that. Love them for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I really, well, just so you know, we take all these books and we have a search engine that we have now 120 books on there that they'll all be available for anyone to search if you go to lawyerswholearn.com. And yeah, we use a Lovable. We built a little search engine through vibe coding pretty easily. And it's just a way to, I think books for $15 is the best return of investment you can get in your life of something that's really had an impact on you from the stories, or if it's fiction or nonfiction or historical fiction. So appreciate you sharing that. Virginia, I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate all that you've had to say and how much you've been successful. And now you're onto this new phase in your life where it's going to be entrepreneurial and exciting. And also, like you said, you have your children were the joy of your life. And now even, I'm sure what I hear is grandchildren are even better. So enjoy. Thank you for that. I enjoy the pickup today and hope to continue to stay in touch and see how things go with AttainIP. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, David. It's been absolutely delightful. I really appreciate your time and energy.
Yeah, for sure.
More energetic.
Fantastic. That was my goal. So awesome.
That was your goal. Very nice.
See you soon. Take care.
Stay in touch. Bye-bye. Bye.